Good evening. I'm happy to be addressing you all one more time. I propose the State of the Union. I believe that at the present time, India is witnessing an unprecedented economic scenario, and if I may respectfully submit that this is a reenactment of the 1929-35 Great Depression. This started in the year 2008, and in the Internet of Everything age, at various points in time, it was cushioned, but now it has reached its nadir, and there'll be a free fall till circa 2022. Given my candid assertions, the fundamental issue here is of economic governance. How does the finance minister in India govern the economy? It is actually a very simple prescription, and ejus dem generis. This is valid for both SMEs as well as the corporate houses, because across the industry verticals, they're all suffering from the albatross of debt, a very high interest rate regime, major problems in labor, rising input costs, and wafer-thin margins. Now, given this, the government has to necessarily come forth with ideation which is sensible, in the sense that it should be perceptive and perspicacious to meet the needs of our times. First things first, we have a huge non-performing asset base in this country, and the first thing that the government has to do, instead of consolidating banks, is to go in for what I call mothballing. The entire NPA at a point in time should be mothballed into a separate asset owned probably by a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India, India Central Bank, and what they can do is recapitalize all the banks to 50% of the amount of the NPAs, and the remaining 50% could be done over a period of 7 years, over the medium term. And the separate entity which has now taken over the NPAs can come up with their own rules of the game in accordance to the Constitution of India to get into a serious recovery. Our cell is there today, but it is obviously not doing a great job, because if it had done such a great job, there would not have been so many NPAs, and in the first instance, and in the second instance, there would not have been so many unmanageable NPAs. So the reason why we have had so many NPAs is because many industrialists know that if it goes to our cell, they are quite safe. There are ways and means by which they can continue to control the assets over a medium to long term. And B, our cell does not have a governance system in place for revitalizing the industry vertical. And they go by a state method of auctioning, which may not be the prescription which is apposite for today's age. So given that we have and this NPA deal can be, when the mothballing happens and recapitalization to 50% would bring in that much more liquidity to the economy, and across the verticals from SMEs to corporate verticals, to the high-end corporations, they all would stand to gain. And secondly, as a corollary to the NPAs, the loans being advanced from now on should be done at a very reasonable rate. The most criminal thing in India is the interest rates, because some corporates borrow at 11, some at 14.5%, and let's not even talk of the private lenders who are as mercenary can get to be. So whether it's an SME entrepreneur or a large corporation, they literally get caught in this cauldron of having to pay high interest rates. The net result is, over a period of time, they're unable to service the debt, and therefore they become NPAs. And of course, across India, the skills development program has not been a great success, and the quality of India's labor is rather poor. This leads to several opportunity costs, and it also leads to a lot of delays at workplace, and has a direct bearing on product quality. And given that we are now in a global village, product quality is of prime importance. And if India hopes to be a manufacturing outsourcing center, it has to ensure that its products are the first class from a world perspective, when viewed from a world perspective. Now, this also has there are two other issues with this productivity. One is rising input costs and wafer thin margins. Now, rising input costs is something which will have to be tackled via effective utilization of the factors of production. And it is sad, very sad, that till today no agency in India has ever gone in for a nationwide factor of production analysis. That is a district-wise factor of production analysis. What any district has, which is better than the other district in juxtaposition or not, we do not know. So much of this is being driven by private initiatives, and some of them have been able to capitalize, some of them have gone woefully wrong. So the government has to completely and comprehensively conduct a factor of production analysis district-wise every 5 years, so that we know where our core competencies lie. So this is a very, very crucial area where the government will have to interface, the economic ministries will have to interface with the skill development ministry to ensure that this is done in a very systematic and proficient manner. Now, having said that, we desperately need to get back on track, and to do that, the government will have to get into serious interventionism as an indicative archetype. In the recently concluded Rafael deal, 30% offset stakes, 15% could have been given to large corporations, and 15% could have been denoted entirely for SMEs who do the downstream operations for the large corporations. This way the money would have percolated down and intervention would have had meaning. This is the time when the government has to intervene in a major way. The Ministry of Railways, the Ministry of Defence, the Ministry of Fertilizers, so on and so forth, will have to really get to the root of it, pump in a lot of money into a lot of projects, so that even whilst reserving a certain segment for SME sector, so that growth is all around and equitable. Now, this is very important. And finally, we need to have sensible income tax rates in this country. And to face the present, for the corporate sector, my analysis states that we should just tax them to 10%, and for the SME verticals, they should have a tax holiday for the next 3 years till we are out of the Great Depression. So these are my views in this matter. This is an area of darkness today, and I do hope that I have provided for much clarity in an otherwise dark world. Thank you so very much. Take care.